Hello, welcome back. So we're going to discuss a little bit, like I said in the last video, we're going to talk about a little bit more about how kind of uncooperative Chase is on the whole. But first, I want to start by talking about the very clear difference there was between when we were still working for him, and this is still our discussion about us working for him, but like there was this huge difference between when he had his day job and when he decided to quit, which is funny because when he had his day job, it was the vast majority of the time that we worked for him. He had a day job. It was only that last month where he quit his day job that things radically shifted. So before, when he had his day job, he was too busy to pay attention to anything that was going on. Discord and all that fun stuff. He paid attention to basically none of it. And he kind of left us to our own devices. And that's where I ended up running his company for him for a good long while.
I ran the marketing team. I was the director of marketing, which sounds really too fake to put on my resume, but I basically had two people working under me and then a few people kind of working with the team. And Cassie, she was my boss. Granted, we kind of treated each other as equals, but...
Well, that's how a leader should lead anyway. You lead with your team, not dictating from a podium. That is my 2 cents there, and I found it to be much more effective when you're down in the trenches with your fellow workers and trying to get things done and working with them. Not to sound all, uppity about it, but it's kind of something that leadership was lacking. Again, we've stated before that Chase is kind of scattered and all over the place, and he offered no real direction to anybody in his company beforehand. And part of it, you would think it had to do with the fact that he was busy with a day job, but it really just boiled down to the fact that he's really shit at just giving direction. Like, he has no idea how to go about doing that. When we were running it for him, he would give vague ideas of what he wanted, and we discussed about how when he asked for something, he wanted it now. I want pictures of Spider-Man now, kind of deal. And he would expect it to be just done at the snap of a finger. He describes himself as a visionary in the sense of he comes up with all these different ideas, and it really is truly reminiscent of that trope of somebody who does get-rich-quick schemes, because that's kind of what he does. He does a bunch of get-rich-quick schemes, things that he thinks are going to really, really work well, that he has done no research for, has no idea how it's going to operate, but yet expects everybody else to figure it out and get it done for him, and for it to make him money.
Like, hey guys, make me ClickFunnels.
Yeah, those of you in the audience who know what ClickFunnels are, great. But just saying that to somebody who doesn't know what ClickFunnels are does nothing to help them learn what ClickFunnels are. But he would just expect people to know what it is and to execute it.
Well, he gave me a book to read about ClickFunnels, but that didn't really explain much either, because it was just a sales pitch on buy whatever other product they were selling. It kind of gave you a general idea, but it wasn't enough to actually build it.
He would hand me on a weekly basis a list, a literal list of just things that popped into his head.
Oh my god, yeah, like the mind map or whatever that he had and all these to-do lists, like every single thing he thought of ever, he would just write down, and it was like, all right guys, here's the plan, let's do this, and there's a mind map with like 1,000 things on it.
I never even looked at the mind map, I'll be real with you. Like, I never even touched it. Not even once. He would physically call me. And like I said before, he called me at all hours of the day or night, no matter what day it was. He would physically call me and be like, hey, we're going to go over my list for this week. And he would send me a picture of his lists of shit that just needs doing. And it would be an intermix of random ideas, appointments, and things he wanted done for his business. And like, it was up to me to figure out what the fuck he wanted done when on this list of just random ideas that he just jotted down.
It was kind of the same without the random ideas. Like, he would have a list of things that he wanted his company to do, but like, that's it. He would just like give you a list. There was really no priority and no do this first and then do that. We had to figure it out.
Yeah. So this is kind of what I meant by like, I gave the structure to the company that it did not have. It was just kind of like a floating ball of chaos, and I just kind of organized it to the best of my ability. Even I got things wrong because I'm not perfect, and it was a lot of shit that he wanted to get done.
You facilitated so much. Like, every single project or thing that got done within the company from when you started to when you left, like, you managed it. You decided the priority and the structure, and it gave me the direction that I needed, because I didn't really take off that well with the marketing aspect until after you joined the company.
I organized the platforms. I helped initiate projects and get them off the ground for him. Things like his Patreon, organization of his website to make it an actual functional thing. While Emily did the technical of it, I helped with the direction of it and the due dates and articles that are written for him, social media. These things were organized and given due dates where it didn't have them before. And it was because of this organization and just what we brought to the table and helped everybody like work as a team to accomplish. He wound up going from making what, maybe 4,000 a month to 10,000 at a certain point.
I think it was less than $4,000 when I started. When he had upped the price of coaching, he was making less than $1,000 a month on coaching. His YouTube was making like $400-600, and then granted, he didn't have the Patreon yet, which we, for the most part, pretty much managed like what the benefits would be for it.
Oh, he had nothing. He had almost nothing to do with any of the Patreon benefits, by the way.
Yeah.
That was pretty much where Emily and other people who were on his team who came up with good ideas, good rewards for people who are subscribed to his Patreon to receive. And as far as I'm aware, the reason why most of his content is late is because he drags his feet on everything.
Yeah, it's because he just doesn't want to provide it. But even so, like, he has trouble listening to us. Like, he wanted to add a coaching session, not a coaching, a typing session to his Patreon. He's like, make me a $200 a month diamond tier, and with that you get a typing session. And we're like, Chase, that's really dumb. You're charging $200 a month. Like, yeah, they get the other benefits, but they get a one-time coaching session. So why are they going to pay monthly for a one-time session? Nobody's going to buy that. But he forced us to put it out. So we put it out, and like maybe one person bought it and then canceled it that month, and we're like, duh.
See? Like, tried to explain this at length, would not listen, did what he wanted to do anyway. Another story of Chase just pays lip service and then just does what he wants in the end.
Do you want to talk about the logo?
Oh my god, yes. Yes, I do. Let's talk about the logo.
Oh my god, okay. So this was after Chase quit his job, but he was on his full-time job, rather. He was on vacation in like Disney World, so he didn't really want to be bothered.
Okay. So basically, Emily came to me and was like, we really need a logo. Like, we need to actually finally have a logo. And quite frankly, this company needed a logo for a long time. We were using his like signature, that's not even really his signature, as a logo.
He probably paid his graphic designer friend to like make it.
Oh yeah, probably. But like that signature was his logo for a while because we just didn't have anything better. He tried to suggest better things. He wanted to use the psi symbol in Greek alphabet as his thing, and he wanted his color scheme to be black and orange. So he wanted a Halloween frat house theme for his website and everything having to do with his company.
No, it wasn't like a nice, tasteful psi symbol either. It was like a big, thick one that it pulls up in like the first couple images of the Google search. Like it wasn't even unique.
Yep, quite literally a frat house symbol. And it took convincing to tell him that he couldn't use that. And I believe Emily actually did outright tell him it looks like a fraternity Halloween party symbol. Just no.
Well, it was later on. So he gave me the company colors for the website, and I'm like, Chase, I've tried, because one of the first things I did when I started was I redid the website. When I redid it wasn't the best website ever, but it actually looked kind of professional, which before it just looked like a blog page. So I tried to make it orange and black and what have you, and I'm like, Chase, I can't do this without it looking Halloweenish. So we agreed to make it blue, and then I used the psi symbol that he gave me and put it up in like the banner and what have you, and I had Cassie look at it because she's more of an artist than I am, and she's like, it looks like a frat webpage, and I'm like, okay. So that's when we went to Chase about it, and we decided to use basically his signature for everything.
Yep, and that worked for a while. We ended up later establishing an actual color scheme for his website and for his Instagram and social media, and it ended up being kind of sunset colors. It was like blue, blue-green, and orange, kind of a yellow-orange as our choice, with a little bit of red.
It was like blue-green, blue-purple, and orange-yellow, I think.
Yeah, and those were the colors that we worked within for his overall look. And if you go onto his social media and, his old website, not the current one, because the current one is...
the old one's up anymore, but like his
well,
social media posts from like before, a couple months ago, like September-ish.
Between when did we start instigating that? That was around June, I think. So like, no, even later than that. It was kind of July, wasn't it, when we established that? So between July and August, his posts followed that theme. And like it actually kind of made his Instagram flow and like look pretty and make people want to look at it and be more appealing.
Yeah, there was a pattern to the colors and everything.
Yep. And his website also kind of followed some of those rules and some of those colors. So everything looked like it belonged together. And then finally we're like, all right, well, this signature, as much as it's been awesome, it can't really be used as a real like logo. And what I refer to, it's a long signature. There's no shorthand of it. It's just one big signature, and breaking it apart made it look really dumb. So I was like, all right, I think what we need an actual logo that is symbolic. Now, the current logo he is using is one I came up with for him after he basically suggested what he wanted after we had a big back and forth, and we'll go into that too. But like, it's the ugliest one. It straight up is. It's so bad looking. Oh my God, it hurts. Every time I see it, I'm like, oh God. It's just so bad.
It doesn't symbolize anything to do with what brings people to his company. It looks like techy, which he thinks he's a tech company for some reason.
So let's kind of begin where it kind of began, our journey into his look, which was when we finally established he wanted his own system of naming for the types. And we came up with different things. We asked him what he wanted, and he told us he wanted fantasy, but he also wanted hacker. But basically fantasy was what we ended up going with. And that's why people who are still on his Discord, and I think it's on his website too, I'm not sure, can't confirm that in this instant, but his names for the different types are all D&D classes. Things that are common in Dungeons and Dragons. If you don't know what D&D is, role-playing game on a tabletop, it's a giant nerd game and high fantasy. Love it to death, but nerd game. Anyway, he wanted it to be fantasy-based, so we went, okay, we're going to go in on this fantasy jive. This is where you're going with it. This is how we're going to make it all mesh well together. We have to have things that match that. So the logos came out. I made some of them. The designer we had on staff at the time made the vast majority of them, and she did a phenomenal job with them.
Yeah, she made them on paper, and then myself and Cassie, we translated them into computerized. We computerized them basically. I think I did most of them.
I made like 3 of them. Like for example, the INTP one, or not INTP, the INTJ one, the one with the bow and arrow. That's the one I made. I also made ESFP and INFP.
Part of them were a combination of our other graphic artists and Cassie's.
Yeah, basically. We kind of were going with that look of just fantasy. And so we were going in on that for the logo as well. At first, we were trying to think. So the first thing when you establish how to make a logo, and this is logo making 101. So if you're making a logo for a company, or even a person for that matter, you want to make sure that that logo represents the product that you're selling. Whatever that is, whatever your company represents. So Chase is under the impression that his company is him, like he is his company. Incorrect. The product he's selling to all of you is typology of his own version of typology, which boils down to the 4 sides of the mind. That is what he's selling to you. That's what his company is about. That's what is unique about his company, is that. So when you're making a logo, we're going about making a logo for him. What we want to do is we want to represent the 4 sides of the mind, somehow, some way, in the logo, where it's easily recognizable and the person who looks at it immediately goes, ah, yes, this relates to CSJ.
So not just that, we also considered, before we went with the 4 sides, like, what do people get from Chase? Why do people go to him? It's not him specifically, although, you know, he has a personality, okay, whatever. They go to him because they want to learn about themselves. So we didn't think using his name would be the best way to represent what people get from his brand.
Exactly. So we tried to come up with something symbolic, and I personally thought it would be a good idea for us to have a logo that is not only symbolic but doesn't really have lettering to it to begin with. Mostly because the best logos that exist generally are just a singular, simple pattern. Think Nike. Nike and Apple, probably some of the most successful logo designs that have ever existed. That Apple is iconic. You know exactly what product you're getting when you see it. When you see the Nike swoosh, you don't even need to see Nike spelled underneath it. You know it's Nike. You see that swoosh. It's perfect. It symbolizes everything. You think about that company. You know what the product is. Boom, there it is. And that's a logo. That is a good logo. And that's kind of what we were trying to aim for. Now, coming up with something as brilliant as those is just, it's possible to do. I'm not going to put myself on that pedestal. But like, we were trying to go for that kind of look. We wanted something to be iconic, something that represented his company at a glance, where consumers could tell, yes, this is what he's about. This is what his company is about, and I relate to it. And
But
that's how you
also,
start to build brand loyalty as well. But yes, go ahead.
but also something that had, and Cassie did teach me this for the most part, something that has simple shapes and lines, something that's easy to make out exactly what it is, whether it's tiny or it's big, something that will look good whether it's in full color or it's in black and white. You notice, it doesn't matter if the Nike swoosh is black or white or if it's a goddamn rainbow. You can make it look good with whatever it's on. Same with the Apple logo.
Yep, exactly. And you'll oftentimes notice, like, if you look at the progression, I actually put this in a PowerPoint for Chase specifically because I had to explain to him how logos work, which he probably did not listen to, but that's a different thing.
Well, you
And like,
notice a lot of logo progressions, like from the olden days before they had so much marketing research, they are a lot more complex. And you'll notice as time progresses, they generally get simpler and simpler.
mm-hmm. And I mean, like, that's exactly what you want. You want consumers to know exactly what your product is about the instant they see it, and the less there is included on it, the more money they technically save when they're trying to advertise it. Saves on ink, saves on thread, saves on all sorts of different things. The less space that your logo takes up, or the less intricate it is, the easier it is to put on everything. Yeah, we just tried, and I mean, like, we really tried. It was basically the three of us, me, Emily, and the designer at the time, who we just busted down, and we cranked out a bunch of different logos in different ways it could go. And this also ties back to the fact that he gave no direction for anything.
Yeah, like he was like, okay, make a logo. So we basically narrow it down to 5 to 10 basic choices, and we were having a team meeting, a work meeting with other members of the team, and part of that, we just wanted to get people's feedback. Like, these were not final logos by any means, and we said that during the call. We were just like, we want you to vote on like what you think is the best one after going through all of that stuff about what logos are supposed to be and all of that, what we were aiming for. Um, and we started voting.
Now, this was a meeting that Chase was supposed to attend from the get-go, but he was late because he was busy doing vacation stuff, even though I even suggested that we schedule it a different time, but he insisted that it needed to be this day, this time, so we did it on that day and that time.
Granted, we just
And
started without him because we were used to having meetings without him. We ran his company. It's not like we needed him there.
pretty much. And like, it was me who instigated the vote, but like, this was after me, Emily, and the designer, we all had like filtered out a bunch of different logo ideas and designs and like refined it and refined it. And we got down to those five because we wanted to have a simplistic choice. Like, all of them were solid logo designs. All of them were really good. Any of them could have made a good logo or stuff, even just a basis to go from. Like, we could have changed things. And that was the idea it was going about, is this the direction we want to go in, was the question. And what do you guys like the most, and what are your suggestions? And Chase saw that we were putting it to a vote, and he frantically messaged me going, what are you doing without me? And I'm like, we're not doing anything without you. In fact, I would like you to join the meeting where, we're looking at the logos and seeing what ones everybody seems to like. He's like, you're making these decisions without me. And I'm like, no, we're just trying to get an idea of where to go with these logos. And he's just like, he didn't listen. He sincerely thought we were making a decision for him without getting his input on it.
So he joined the call all flustered. And as far as I remember, he was like, well, he liked the ones that were the worst. Based on the criteria that we just told you about logos, he liked the ones that did not fit it at all and were just kind of like, he liked or whatever. So then we took the time to explain all of that to him again, and then he was like, well, you can tell this part.
Oh, he basically said, I don't like any of them. Make me more.
And we were like, we made a lot more, and like, oh my god. It wasn't even finished logos. Like, it was just which ones, do you like the most so that we can make more versions and different things to do with those basic ones. And I got I got pissed.
I was pissed too. So, like, for him to just be like, none of these are good enough, make me more. Mind you, none of us were hired on to be that designer for him, other than, well, the designer, but like, that person wasn't a graphic designer. They were just there to help with the social media. That was it. They weren't there to make him a logo like a graphic designer would be. If you want graphic designer level of effort put into your stuff, then hire a damn graphic designer. Like,
Yeah, so
we didn't have to do this. We did not have to go out of our way to make this for him. We just did because we had the capacity for it. And the fact that the response of, this isn't good enough, make me more, is just a slap in the face.
so then we kind of ended up going the direction where we thought was best, and Cassie made this awesome looking logo that represented the four sides of the mind, and I added a couple things to it to make it look like an Ouroboros, because he wanted really bad an Ouroboros,
First he
um
wanted a yin yang,
or
then
and
he
the
wanted an
infinity
Robert.
symbol, and I'm like, do you just want like all the random bro pseudo spiritual symbols in there, or...
Pretty much.
And we're
That's
like,
what he wanted.
I'm like, dude, like there's so many companies with these as their logos. Like, your company
he,
should stand out.
he basically wanted a symbol, like a 60s spa symbol for his logo, because, oh, well, yin and yang represent me, represent the duality of man and woman and how they play in the mind. And or I
And the
want the Ouroboros
Ouroboros, it's
because it
like
represents
everything, and
infinity.
my work, it represents the human soul. So I need a logo that represents that. And we're like, so he ended up drawing like the CSJ infinity thing, and Cassie made it. Now, granted, she never signed a release stating that she gave up ownership of what she made, so technically she still owns Chase's logo.
I
He
sure
just
do.
changed the color. So not
That
only
is plagiarism, friends.
so like having one color in like that green in the middle of the white, it's so awful because it doesn't look good on light backgrounds. It doesn't look good on dark backgrounds, and it has to like match that color green on whatever they put it on, or it just looks bad. So not only did he pick like the ugliest logo pretty much, he made it uglier.
Hmm. He made it so only the S stands out, and that's all you see. The C and the J are secondary. So the very first thing anybody sees when they look at his logo is an S. Everything else is secondary, and I am willing to bet if you don't know CSJ and you see that logo for the first time, you're not even going to process that there's a C and a J next to that S. It's just going to look like an S with some squiggly lines next to it.
And then you'll maybe see that it kind of looks like a sideways 8. It doesn't even look like an infinity symbol. It looks like a computerized 8.
So that's our bit with the logos. It did end up leading to something worse, which we will get into in the next conversation, because I think this video has gone on quite long enough.
Yep, let's kill it here. It's dead.
Murder.
Goodbye.
All right.
If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button. If you want to hear more, hit that subscribe button. And feel free to ask any questions you have down in the comments below. At some point, we're going to do a Q&A video, so all the questions that you may have asked us before or want to ask us about working for Chase or being his moderator, or even about Chase if we know it, now's your time. We'll actually answer now that we're not trying to protect his business.
Absolutely. Anything goes.
And feel free to share this video with your typology friends on Reddit, Discord servers, wherever.